everyone. So today we'll start with the question paper solution of CUET paper 2022. We'll be discussing all the important topics as well as the questions and the solution for the same. Okay. So the first question given over here is bandwagon effect makes demand more inelastic, elastic, remains same, and unitary elastic. So this is one of the theory questions, and here it is important to understand what bandwagon effect is. So here we can see the solution for the same. That is, the bandwagon effect makes the demand more elastic. So why is that so? That is because the bandwagon effect refers to the increase in the preference for a commodity because others are buying it. So this leads to more demand for the product, and thus it would make the demand more elastic. So what does bandwagon effect mean? It is basically when people buy more of the commodity, same commodity, and um, some people preferring the commodity would make the others also buy the same commodity, and that is how we can see that more people are buying the same commodity, and thus it makes the demand more elastic. So here we have the explanation. Why is it elastic? That is because it refers to the increase in the preference for the commodity, and thus others are buying it. So this leads to more demand for the product, and it would lead uh, the demand to be more elastic. So even if there is a rise in the price, people would still prefer buying a commodity due to the bandwagon effect, and this results in the change in the quantity demanded. So thus we can see here that the bandwagon effect makes demand more elastic. That is, when people start preferring a certain commodity, then just because others are buying it. So that is bandwagon effect. So and that is, with reference to the Bertrand model, which of the following is correct? So here we can see four options. That is, the duopolists recognize their interdependence. It explains the price rigidity. Each duopolist assumes that the others keep the price constant. And the fourth option is that each duopolist assumes that the others keep the quality constant. So we have studied about the Bertrand model already. So it's very easy to identify out of these topics. And so the answer given over here is option C. That is, each duopolist assumes that others keep their price constant. So if we have already studied this topic in the class, so you can refer to the model, or you can refer to the class where we have discussed regarding different types of market, where we have oligopoly, duopoly, and all the others. So in the duopoly, we have a certain kind of model, that is the Bertrand model, where we studied that each duopolist would assume that the others would keep its price constant. So here, what does Bertrand competition mean? It is important to understand that it is a model of competition in which two or more firms produce a homogeneous good and compete in prices. So if we understand the topic itself, we can recognize the options out of these. So in this model, the firms are independent, and they cut prices to gain market share, and there is no assumption regarding quality. So the explanation itself cuts off all the other options, because see, here we can see that the model is independent, and here it shows interdependence. So that itself is wrong. Then we have the quality is uh, kept as constant, but then there is no assumption regarding the quality itself. So again, it's wrong. Then it talks about the price rigidity. It's not the same. They would cut prices in order to gain market share. So with all these options, we can understand that the C option is correct. That shows each duopolist assumes that the others keep their price constant. So that is what we can understand from this question. Next, we move on. If the demand for agricultural products is inelastic, then the options are: as the price decrease, the revenue earned by producers increase. Second is, as the price decreases, the revenue earned by producers would also decrease. Then we have the percentage decrease in prices is lower than the percentage increase in demand. And the last option is rising prices do not lead to differentiation in producers' income. So when we read the options itself, it's very clear that when the demand for agricultural products is inelastic, then we can understand that as the prices decrease, the revenue would also decrease. And why is that so? That is because of the demand that we can show that here. What does inelastic demand mean? It means that when the prices go up, the consumers buying habit stay about the same, and when the prices goes down, then consumers would their buying habits would also remain unchanged. So therefore, even when the prices decrease, the consumers do not demand more of agricultural commodity. So that's why here it's important to note that it's for agricultural products. So usually when we just read the question, we ought to just skip certain words or something. So if we only see demand and inelastic for products or something of that sort, then there are chances that we would take the wrong option. But it's important to read all the questions correctly. So here we can see that if the demand for agricultural products is inelastic. So here the agricultural products, why is it important? That's because uh, even when the price decreases, the consumers do not demand more of the agricultural commodity. It leads to the fall in the revenue of the producers. So thus we can see that as the prices decrease, the revenue earned by producers would also decrease. So here option B is the correct answer. So the next we move on to a fall in the price of a commodity whose demand curve is a rectangular hyperbola causes total expenditure of the commodity to, options are increase, decrease, remain unchanged, or increase with constant rate. So here it is important to understand what a rectangular hyperbola is. So I'm changing the slide because I have to write it down as well. So it's important. Yeah. So yeah, here we have, it's important to understand what the rectangular hyperbola is. So a rectangular hyperbola, it represents the unitary elastic demand. So we all have studied the elasticity of demand. So the unitary elastic demand means it would be equal in percentage change. So the percentage change in quantity demanded is equal to the percentage change in the price. So thus when we understand that the rectangular hyperbola is unitary elastic demand, then it can be easily understood that the option selected over here out of all these would be remain unchanged, because as it's unitary, there won't be any particular change, because as the price falls by 10%, the quantity demanded will increase by 10%. And when the price falls and the quantity demanded increases, it changes by the same percentage. So thus we can say that it would remain unchanged, and thus it's easy to identify with the help of the rectangular hyperbola. You have to remember that it's unitary elastic demand. So in each of the questions, if you remember what that is, or if you are able to remember the concepts very well, it would be easier to understand out of these options. So then next we move on. The angle curve of the Giffen goods is negatively sloped, positively sloped, vertical or horizontal. So from an early age, we have been studying what a Giffen good is. So Giffen good is basically when the demand of those goods increases when the prices also increase. So for example, the jewelry, the gold and everything that we wear, even even when the prices of such commodities increase, the demand for those commodities also increases simultaneously, right? And there are other, say, daily use commodities as well, like rice, wheat, or bread, and all these, wherein even if the price for rice increases or price for wheat and bread increases, people would demand the same, or people would demand more of it, and thus the demand would increase. So here we can see that it's negatively sloped because the income and the quantity demanded, the relationship is shown as negatively sloped. So as we can see that the income effect dominates the substitution effect, and when the price of the given good rises, consumers, especially those with lower incomes, have less money left to spend. I'll just move this. Yeah. Less money spent on other goods. So as a result, a higher quantity is demanded at lower incomes and the lower quantity at higher incomes. So thus we can say that it's negatively sloped. So here we can state that the angle curve for the Giffen good is negatively sloped. So next question is, in the case of the price leadership by the dominant firm, all the firms in the purely oligopolistic industry will produce their best level of output. So we don't even have to read the options. It's very clear that it would be always. So here we can see that all the firms in the purely oligopolistic industry, they would produce their best level always. So we know the case of the price leadership, right? There's a dominant firm and there's a follower firm. So based on the dominant firm, the follower firm would also try to maximize their profit, and the market price is said to be dominant, and they would adjust to achieve MC is equal to P. That is, marginal cost is equal to the price. So the dominant firm sets the price where it can sell the profit, maximizing profit output, and the follower firm would also produce accordingly. So here, based on the description given and based on the concept, we can say that the price leadership by the dominant firm, all the firms in the purely oligopolistic industry will produce their best level of output always. So then next we move on. The golden rule rate of savings refers to, the options are the level of savings which is the maximum possible achievable in the economy, or the level of savings rate which, or where the consumption is maximized at steady state, or where the consumption is minimized at steady state, or at any level of rate. So we study the golden rule rate of in savings in the Solo-Swan model, where it suggests that all the consumption at the steady state should be maximized, and thus we have the formula given as well, wherein SF in bracket K is equal to n plus theta K, where function of K is output per worker as a function of capital per worker. N is the growth rate of labor force, and theta is the depreciation rate that is shown based on the formula. So this is just theory part in order to understand what a steady state is. Other than that, based on the question, we only need to focus that the golden rule rate of savings would always be where the consumption is maximized. So here option B is the correct answer, where we can see that the level of savings rate where the consumption is maximized at the steady state. So then next question, we have the best or optimum level of output for a perfectly competitive firm is given by the point where MC is equal to MR. So we don't need much explanation as it's a perfectly competitive firm, and in order to maximize the profit, the output level would be at MC is equal to MR, and at this level the firm is producing the last unit of output that adds more to the total revenue. So here we can see that the best or the optimum level of output in perfectly competitive firm is given where MC is equal to MR. So that's a very simple question. So then next we move on to the aggregate demand is. So these are very long options that we have over here. That is negatively related to the price level, because a decline in the price level has a negative effect on demand for output. So it's always easier to understand or read the question based on the options given. So here the question is only one word, but then here we can see that options are there. So how can we differentiate each option? So here it's negatively sloped, and in these two we have positively sloped. So that is one thing. The price level is the same in all the questions. Here we can see because the decline in the price level is also, it also remains the same in all the questions. And then we have for the negatively related, we have negative effect of demand for output. For this thing, we have positive effect. For positive effect, we have negative, and positively related, we have positive effect. So these are how we can understand the question or the options very well. So the only difference in all these questions is negatively related to the price level or positively related to the price level. So first we have to understand what the question is. So here it's asking regarding the aggregate demand. So we need to understand that the price level is negatively related or positively related. So here we can see that the when the price level falls, the real value of money increases. So that itself solves the question probably, that is there's negatively related to the price level because the a decline in the price level has a positive effect on the demand for output. So with that, this means that the consumers have greater purchasing power because of existing money can buy more goods and services. So this is just the explanation given for the same. But here, after understanding what an aggregate demand is, we can easily identify that it's option B, where it's negatively related to the price level because a decline in the price level has positive effect on the demand for output. So next we move on. The demand for money is, so this is similar to the previous question that we saw, but it's also important to understand what two things are given in the question. So here we have it's positively related or it's inversely related, and based on the demand for money, we can see that it's positively related, two of them, and both are inversely related. Then we can see the difference in the output and the rate of interest. So if we understand how is the relation with the output and how is the relation with the rate of interest, we can understand which option to go with. So here they are asking for demand for money. So when it's demand for money, then it's always positively related to output. And if when we understand the rate of interest, it's always negatively or inversely related. So as the demand for money and the rate of interest is inversely related, we can just have a look at the options. Positively both, no. Inversely related both, no, because the output that would increase. Then say inversely related and positively, no. And here we have option D that shows it's positively related to output and it's inversely related to the rate of interest. So the explanation given here can be the people and the businessmen, they typically hold more money when there is higher level of economic activity, that is output, and this is because more money is needed to facilitate an increased number of transactions. So here we can see that there is option 4, that is positively related to output and inversely related to the rate of interest.